2. Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Thursday, so I wanted to talk about some poetry on this Poetry Thursday. I found a poem about a birthday and someone's unusual response to getting older. I am referring to The Author Reflects on His 35th Birthday by Ishmael Reed. For those who don't know, Ishmael Reed is a Black author known mostly for his poetry, although he has written quite a bit of regular books as well. Some that I haven't encountered, but after reading up on his biography, I kind of want to see what he has written about. So that might be something that I look into in 2022. He's also a civil rights activist, and a lot of people have become angered by his words because he's a bit of a cynic, arguing that a lot of the efforts undertaken during the civil rights movement weren't exactly helpful, and I can see how one would become cynical in the process of doing that, seeing all the leaders that you look to or people who were propped up being killed or jailed or worse. I think there was another Black author that I read when I started the BookTube channel who had the same issues in that regard. So I can understand the cynicism. He's a bit of a controversial figure because of that. He's also somewhat of or some people have called him out for misogyny, which is unfortunate. But I'm not here to talk about that misogyny, however terrible it may be. Instead, let's talk about the poetry that I brought to you today. I will read it and then do a bit of an analysis, and we will move on from there. The author reflects on his 35th birthday. 35, I have been looking forward to you for many years now. So much so that I feel that you and I are old friends, and so on this day 35, I propose a toast to me and you. 35, from this day on I swear before the bountiful Osiris that if I ever try to bring out the best in folks again, I want somebody to take me outside and kick me up and down the sidewalk or sit me in a corner with a funnel on my head. Make me as hard as a rock, 35, like the fellow in the story about the big one that got away. Let me laugh my head off with Moby Dick as we reminisce about them suckers who went down with the Pequod, 35. I ain't been mean enough. Make me real mean. Mean as old Marie rolling her eyes, mean as the town Bessie sings about, where all the birds sing bass. 35, make me Tennessee mean, Cobra mean, Cuckoo mean, Injun mean, Dracula mean, Beethoven brows mean, Miles Davis mean, don't offer assistance when quicksand is tugging some poor dope under mean, pawnbroker mean, Pharaoh mean. That's it, 35. Make me Pharaoh mean as can be, mean as the Dickens, meaner than mean. When I walk down the street, I want them to whisper, there goes Mr. Mean. He's double mean. He's even turned the skeletons in his closet out into the cold. And 35, don't let me trust anybody over Reed, but just in case, put a tail on that Negro too. February 22nd, 1973. In terms of analysis, I don't feel I need to go too in-depth into what this poem is. It seems to be the author turning 35 and reflecting on what that means to him. And it seems to be not very good for him. Like, I guess he's been looking forward to turning 35, but for a bunch of different reasons. It says at the end of the poem that this is 1973, so a little bit past much of the civil rights movement in the 50s and the 60s, and perhaps him witnessing all of that has led him to not really trust other people, has led him to become cynical, as other people have noted about Ishmael Reed, has led him to just kind of push people out of his life. I can see how watching the people that you love dearly get arrested or jailed or killed or targeted in some way would make you cynical and not believe that that change is possible in this country. But it's unusual that he's distancing himself from everyone, because certainly there can be people in his life that could help. But he says he doesn't really want to help other people. He says, don't offer assistance when quicksand is tugging some poor dope under me. So even when someone's in a desperate state, he might not want to help. And I know this could be all a joke on his part, or, exaggeration. But it does seem like, given what I know about Ishmael Reed, that this feels a little blunt, because that's what he's dealing with at the time. Those are his emotions in the moment, and he's very frustrated in letting all of his frustrations out. Another thing about this poem that really stands out to me is the allusion to Moby Dick. Later in the second verse, he says, "Let me laugh my head off with Moby Dick as we reminisce about them suckers who went down with the Pequod." And what I think that is getting at is maybe there's something in Ishmael's life, which is, again, it's unusual because his name is Ishmael Reed. Call me Ishmael, as they say in Moby Dick. So some connection there. But I think the allusion to Moby Dick is maybe he's been chasing after too many white whales in his life, and this at this point when he's 35, he's like, those people were suckers. Like, it's much better to be the whale, because the whale gets away free and you don't have to waste your entire life chasing after some goal that will result in your death, or will just be time wasted on your part. I'm not quite sure what he's getting at. This poem is very personal, and I feel like the true meaning of it is locked away in Ishmael Reed's mind, who is still alive, mind you. So a lot to consider in that regard. And the last part that's interesting to me about this poem is the end. It says, in 35, don't let me trust anybody over Reed, but just in case, put a tail on that Negro too. And I don't quite understand what he's getting at there, because his last name is Reed. So it's possible it could be, don't let me trust anybody over a family member, over myself, over someone close to me. But he does say put a tail on that Negro too, and so that insinuates that he's talking about a specific person. Is he talking about himself? It's a bit unclear, given how he's referring to himself in the poem and who he might be exactly referring to at various parts. But I think it's interesting that maybe he's saying that he doesn't trust anyone, including himself. Like it's a lot of self-hate, self-deprecation going on. That in that case, that would make this poem a bit more sad than it is. It's already pretty sad. A man kind of saying he doesn't want to care about anything else. But to go even further, it might be saying he's just tired of everything, of all this thing, everything that's going on in his life, all the turmoil, everything. And that's understandable given, what's going on at this time. But it's still sad. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Author Reflects on His 35th Birthday by Ishmael Reed. A pretty interesting and fun poem to read, just because of how it repeats, and the short verses really add to it. Although, just because it's fun to read, if you have to actually look at what he's talking about, it does get a bit sadder. I'm going to put a link to this in the description so that you may find it and read it. If you have any thoughts on it, any comments, anything you want to say about my review, feel free to do so below. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this author if they don't already know them, and about Poetry Thursday if they aren't aware that exists on BookTube. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and birthday-ish travels. Farewell.